Today I'm going to introduce our second quarter math project, which is Mrs. Carroll's Thanksgiving Feast for 15. You should have a copy of this in front of you as I read along and explain the different parts of the project. This year, Mrs. Carroll is cooking Thanksgiving dinner for her family. She's planning a traditional Thanksgiving feast for 15 of her relatives and has been busy preparing everything from the menu to the seating arrangements. Mrs. Carroll would like her meal to be hot and delectable and served in a comfortable and inviting setting. She needs your help to make her Thanksgiving dinner a success. Important questions regarding turkey preparation, recipe modifications, setting the table, and seating arrangements need to be answered. Are you up for the challenge? Mrs. Carroll is depending upon you. There are 5 very important parts to the Thanksgiving feast that need mathematical support. You will provide assistance for the following: turkey purchase and preparation, recipe modifications, dinner table place settings and decorations, dessert options, and finally a diagram of the dinner table. The grading will be as follows. Turkey time will be worth 25 points. Let's Cook section will be worth 20 points. Setting the table is worth 15 points. Dessert logic is worth 20 points, and dinner is served is 20 points as well. The project is due on Tuesday, November 22nd, which is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and on your sheets the date is incorrect on when the project was handed out. It was really handed out today, Monday, November 7th, not November 8th. So you can cross out 8 and correct it to 7. In the first section, it's called Turkey Time, and you will answer questions regarding turkey purchase, preparation, and serving the turkey. I want to draw your attention to the directions for this section. It says to show all your work for each of the following problems and make sure to label all of your answers. Each of the problems is worth 5 points. You may need to show multiplication, you may need to show division. Whatever is required of you does need to be shown on this page for full credit. This section of the project is called Let's Cook. Now it's time for the side dishes. 2 of the side dishes Mrs. Carroll will serve are traditional cranberry sauce and stuffing. Since only a few people like the cranberry sauce, you will help Mrs. Carroll reduce the recipe so it serves less people. On the other hand, everybody loves stuffing, so she needs to make much more of the stuffing so there is enough for everyone during dinner and extra for leftovers. Read the directions for each recipe and make sure to show all your work. I'm going to read the problems, and I'm actually going to make another video if you do not understand how to do this section. The first one says perfect cranberry sauce serves 15 people. The directions. This recipe serves 15 people, but Mrs. Carroll knows that only 6 of her relatives like cranberry sauce, so she would like to cut the recipe down so that she doesn't make too much of this side dish. Use the space to the right to show your work and list the amount of each ingredient needed to serve 6 people. What fraction of the recipe will Mrs. Carroll cook? So on this page, you have the recipe here, and you're going to, for each of the ingredients, figure out how much of the ingredients Mrs. Carroll needs to make enough for only 6 of her relatives that like cranberry sauce. You're going to write how much the reduced amount is here, and you're going to show your work in this area. If you don't understand how to do this section, I will be showing you in another video. The second recipe is Neely's Holiday Cornbread Stuffing, and it serves 15 people. This recipe serves 15 people, but Mrs. Carroll knows that everybody loves stuffing, so she wants to make sure she has more than enough for Thanksgiving dinner plus leftovers. You need to calculate how much of each ingredient she would need to make enough stuffing to serve her 15 guests plus an extra 1/2 of a recipe for leftovers. Use the space to the right to show your work and the amount of each ingredient needed for this recipe. So here again are the ingredients, and we want to know how many people Mrs. Carroll is really planning on making stuffing for. And since this involves increasing the number of ingredients, you're going to have to write what the increase of the ingredients are here and then show your work here. Some of the ingredients, the amounts, will be duplicated. For instance, you need 1 tablespoon of chopped thyme and 1 tablespoon of sage. So I included them together here for your work, so you only have to show me one set of worked out problems for that one. And the same thing goes with celery and chicken broth. They are actually the same amounts, so you just need to do one calculation here, as well as for onions, pecans, and stuffing. This section of the problem has to do with setting the table. There are 3 problems on this page, and all I'm going to ask you to make sure you do is show all of your work for these problems and make sure you label all of your answers. This section of the project is called Dessert Logic. This section is a logic puzzle. If you have never done a logic puzzle before, you are going to practice and play with logic puzzles after this video. I'm going to first read the story behind the logic puzzle. Each of Mrs. Carroll's 4 nieces and nephews prefer a different dessert topping, drink, and location at the dinner table. Mrs. Carroll doesn't remember who likes which kind of pie or topping, which kind of drink, or where they like to sit, but she does remember fragments of information that we may be able to piece together to help her out. Using the following clues, can you help Mrs. Carroll figure out what each niece or nephew likes to have for dessert and where they like to sit? And to help you figure this out, there are clues that follow. I'm not going to read the clues to you, but I am going to scroll down to the box that you're going to use to make your choice eliminations. And I will model how to do a logic problem, but I won't model using this one. We'll use some others to practice with first before we use this. But this grid will help you to eliminate choices and determine who likes what. Dinner is served. Now that the turkey is cooked, the side dishes are prepared, and the pies are ready. It's time to set the table for dinner. There is just one last problem you need to solve for Mrs. Carroll. She has 2 sets of dinner dishes. One set of dinner dishes has a green border around the edge, and the other set of dishes has lovely pink flowers that circle the edge of each plate. Unfortunately, she has only 12 place settings of the green dishes and 8 place settings of the floral dishes. Thus, Mrs. Carroll will have to mix the 2 sets of dishes on the table in order to accommodate 15 people for dinner. How might she arrange the 2 sets of dishes on the table so as to give the appearance that the table is balanced? Can you come up with a pattern that utilizes both sets of dishes in an interesting and appealing arrangement? So in this section, you get to be creative. And the directions are, using the diagram on the next page, complete the following. The first, the organized arrangement of the 2 sets of dishes on Mrs. Carroll's dinner table. Color and decorate the plates accordingly, accurately depicting your setup of the dinner table. 2. Identify where Mrs. Carroll's nieces and nephews, Anne, Emily, Joe, and Evan, will sit. 3. Include some of the food items such as turkey, stuffing, and cranberry sauce on your diagram of the table. And 4. Identify where Mrs. Carroll should place the floral arrangements and candles. Good luck. This is the page where you're actually going to draw the dinner table with the different plates, the two different styles of plates that Mrs. Carroll has to arrange on the table, making sure not to go over the quantities that she has of each. And you're going to draw some of the food items that Mrs. Carroll would place on the table, as well as perhaps the candles and the floral arrangements. Make sure that you use some color in this so that your picture will be much more interesting. That's the end of the project. Good luck.